Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries. I always say this, today, this evening, middle of the night, but it is global and you do get it dubbed over in your own language now, so that's really cool. Okay, so I know tonight was previewed hanging out with the governor and Linda Ronstadt at a cocktail party. It was actually much more than a cocktail party. And I'm going to try and breeze through this, give a couple of one or two little surprises or, things, and just walk you through what this campaign cocktail party fundraiser was like in 1978. Real quick, let me put this into context. Jerry Brown was the son of Edmund Brown, if I'm not mistaken, who was actually, yes, the governor of California also. Ronald Reagan took over the governorship in, it ended in 75, I want to say. Anyway, Jerry Brown Jr. essentially took the governorship from Ronald Reagan. I think Ronald Reagan might not have been able to run again though, because he had been 2 terms, but anyway, Google it, correct me. Anyway, Ronald Reagan was the governor of California and was followed by Jerry Brown Jr. Now this is critical because if you think in terms of like history, Jerry Brown took over and was governor from 75 to 79. And then from 79 to 83, he picked up the governorship again of California. But what happened during that time? Ronald Reagan took over the country in 1980. So it was kind of critical. We didn't really know much about Ronald Reagan running for president. Again, correct me if I'm wrong necessarily, but getting Jerry Brown into office especially before Ronald Reagan took over this country, and to keep in office till 83 was really kind of, for lack of a better word, a godsend. Okay, so critical campaign. Of course, he started dating Linda Ronstadt in the early 70s. For basically the entire 70s, virtually, Jerry Brown and Linda Ronstadt were an item. Never engaged, but they were, stuck like glue. So, my mom, of course, thinks nothing about getting the place to go to at the time socially. And she thought nothing of making her date. Not her escort, not her little boy, her date. And I'll get to that dynamic in a little bit. So it was in a very fancy part, and I want to say of Beverly Hills, but it could have been Truesdale, it could have been Mandeville Canyon, it could have been anywhere really. I do remember that it was a non-2-story, sprawling, not estate, but home, and kind of lengthwise. And so it wasn't like a mansion, not at all. So you go like French doors everywhere, and then you go back to the patio area. But the patio area is so large, it's more like a plaza that would accommodate like a big pool and everything around that. It was like that big, but a flat plaza, brick. And then down a ways was the pool and I guess the accommodations of the house or whatever. But I mean, this back patio thing was gigantic, enough, of course, to maintain a huge cocktail party. This is where it was at. So I'll never remember running across the street with my mother. My mother was never too eager. She didn't run anywhere. She wasn't too enthusiastic, but she was. So she gets us in. My mom knew everybody, as we've discussed, and God knows how she got us into a campaign cocktail party, but there we were. So before I get to the receiving line with the governor, or soon to be governor, well, actually, second campaign. So again, critical time. I got to get to the fashion. Okay, because for me, and then my mother's son, it was like, oh my God, head explosion. I'm going to some political something, but it's a cocktail party and it's important. So at the time, there was a very fashionable look and store in Westwood, California called Roots. But there may have been others. It was exclusively leather. So, especially shoes and satchels and accessories, essentially. I was all about roots, but layered with a little Fred Siegel. But shoes had to be roots. And of course, I actually had a slung pouch on. But again, this is 1978, guys. Now, I also may and probably were wearing a hat with this ensemble. I had just returned from China, and I frequently wore this hat as a fashion statement, but we did three shows on China, and I mentioned that I would go up to people and try and trade this pin for their pin. And, they would just do it. I don't know, out of obligation, but these are medals, you guys. Most of these are they're like athletic medals. So this is kind of priceless. But anyway, I would wear it, of course, as a fashion statement, and I probably did. So there's this informal receiving line. And what I mean by that is it's not like the Queen royal receiving line where she, goes and you're not supposed to touch her and all this stuff. Of course, this is the 70s. Now, 70s, anything goes. And I'm going to do a whole show on that sort of concept of the 1970s. Anything goes was the cover of Newsweek. And boy, did that transpire. So it was kind of a clustery, and of course my mom always knew who to get where, whatever. So that's why we were in this clustery near him. She may have known somebody. I mean, she knew to get in, but I don't know if she kind of knew somebody who was there. Or my mom would just think of, making an entrance if she was invited, and she's her own celebrity. So maybe room for a governor. So yes, I did get to meet the governor, the soon-to-be governor. No, oh my God, second term, taking him through to 83. So again, 78 prior to a 79 governorship in through an 83 governorship second term. First term being 75, 79. Okay, so here we are. And it was very casual. It was like, hello, 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 hello. But I did get a hello, hello from the governor, and I got eye contact. Now, Ronstadt was behind him. I want to even say like a person behind him, but they were frequently photographed very, very tight. Every picture was like them, either glued together, and frequently she was kind of behind him a little bit. So and she looked much younger than I expected her to look. I was a fan, but not, disco. But I had a good music sensibility by then. I could tell you jazz and everything. But it was a thrill. And strangely enough, it was more of not strangely enough, it was more of a thrill to meet the governor than it was at this critical time, but I didn't know what a critical time it was to be the governor of California and to eyeball Linda Ronstadt within a fairly close distance. So very exciting. I don't recall I was walking around with a wine glass, but the interesting dynamic that I was referring to earlier is that socially, when my mother would bring me to these things, and they were usually always quite remarkable things for reasons or just to fucking be there because I said so. No, it wasn't that bad, because I look forward to these things socially with my mom. They were thrilling. It was a reason to get fashionable and go out and be excited, just like the Queen's parties I talked about last night. So the dynamic when I went out with my mother socially was, as I touched on yesterday, was never child. Never. It was never son. It was son, but it was not my boy or my little boy or look at my child. I was regarded as a date. Now, of course, a platonic date, but it was almost as if some kind of, like maestro, teacher, person, like, I don't know, had a Make-A-Wish Foundation with some very fashionable rich kid. I don't know, but it was a peer-like atmosphere, she and I, that was completely different than when we were, of course. I mean, look, she was like, I don't know, Jackie O out the door, and then Mad Max behind closed doors. So go figure. But anyway, she was fun socially. I gotta give her props on that, because when we went out, it was going out. I mean, my mom took me to see Rocky Horror Picture Show the night it opened in Westwood, California. She was troubled that evening and needed to go to a movie. So she brings me to Rocky Horror at like, what, 10? Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I hope I satisfied your curiosity about meeting the governor, being at a campaign cocktail party fundraiser for the governor. Interesting, Hollywood and its fundraising. I will just kind of maybe leave it. I don't mean to be snarky, but just keep in mind, even back then, when they talk about, oh, Hollywood campaign money, Hollywood is diving into so-and-so's campaign with all this money. Let me tell you something, folks. Hollywood money, in terms of political campaigns, it's really chump change. And I won't go into why, or I will get taken off YouTube. Okay, again, I'll let you go. I know it's been long. I hope you enjoyed today's share, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow with a preview, a clip or two, and a teaser and a show. What else is new, right? 365, just for you guys. And for me, because I get so much out of what it gives to you. Okay, goodbye for now, and I'll see you soon. What can I say? Take care.